and welcome to Arrow Presents. I'm absolutely delighted today to introduce Ian Hewood from Prolifics, and we've got Vicky Bunyard, who is the CTO for Banking and Financial Markets at IBM. So Ian, give us a little bit of background about your role in Prolifics and how you guys work with the financial sector market.
Sure, good to be here. I've been with Prolifics for a little while now, and I've worked with Prolifics for 3.5 years in my previous role. I've spent quite a long time in my career in the finance sector, in retail banks, and in other financial industries, where myself and the Prolifics team have delivered APIs, delivered API platforms, and helped customers come to market with an API approach to their new business and onboarding of new products and the whole integration piece which we see within the industry. And that's one of the elements where Prolifics focuses on, and we have spent a lot of time helping customers and structuring our delivery on how we can accelerate customer products, customer services.
Okay, so you've obviously got a lot of experience then working within the financial sector. So can you give us an overview of what the current landscape of that particular industry looks like currently?
So what we've seen over the past few years, there's been a lot of hype about APIs. There's been a lot of hype about delivery to market and a lot of disruptors within the financial services industry. And what we've seen is the traditional finance environments getting on board with the messages, but not being able to deliver that end-to-end product or solution in an efficient way and embracing what the new technology gives them. We see services coming to market that are keeping up with the challenges. However, they're implemented in a way that's still retaining some of the methodologies from the pre-API and pre-digital transformation scenarios, in that a lot of the tool sets and the advantages that you get with digital transformation are not being enhanced and delivered, that the customers, because it's all about customers, can then be onboarded, can be delivered new solutions using the new technologies, and that's where we come in to help them.
Right, okay, so I gather from what you're saying that some of these large sort of transformational projects are currently failing in some respects. So what, in your experience, are some of the prescient reasons as why those transformational projects are failing?
So what we see especially in the API landscape is the dissemination and the breakup of the monolith that was a bank running on a few core systems, that then each new service offering would be built in its entirety. And with the API-led approach and breaking up the system layer, the process layer and the experience layer of APIs, by that breakup and by then delivering a good system layer and a process layer that sits on top of that, which are both reusable, multiple products can then sit in the experience layer and take advantage of the system and the process layers. And that enables services to be developed on a customer centric approach, as well as the speed to delivery, because you're only doing one layer of your infrastructure, not the whole structure down to the monolith. And where we see the advantage not being taken by some of our customers, and where we help them, is to go with the API-led approach, to deliver those layers, or deliver in those layers, that then enables our customers to help their customers on a faster turnaround of their projects, and not have to do and have the cost of a full end-to-end stack deliverable each time. And that enables the more historic banks, financial services, to keep up with the disruptors who are only dealing with a small slither of they might be doing accounts, they might only be doing cards, whereas your high street bank has got mortgages, it's got loans, it's got all the different elements in the monolith. And the disruptors have broken it up because they're only delivering the one element. The high street banks are struggling because they have to consider everything all the time, and it makes the projects so complicated and so difficult.
Right. I'd like to bring Vicky into the conversation, if I may, at that point, because so Vicky, your experience at IBM. I mean, what are some of the things that you're seeing currently that's happening? You know, do you kind of echo some of the points that Ian has just made?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a few pieces in there that just are hitting the industry, and this high speed of evolution of technology and this drive towards this kind of API economy, exactly as Ian says, you see a little bit, I think, two dimensions. One is either this kind of fragmentation happens a little bit and that causes some problems, or people really are just afraid to step in and jump in, or they don't quite know how to step in and jump in. And so that for sure is causing some organizations to move faster, some organizations to move slower. And I think Ian's point about, the kind of the startups and the fintechs versus the challenger banks versus the established banks, it's much, much easier for the newcomers to jump on board with the technology and drive fast after the technology. But really the incumbent banks, in fact, are doing some quite amazing things around this and really in some places transforming spectacularly. But I think one of the things I see, and Ian's alluded to this a little bit, is that slightly happens at the cost of having oversight and control of your technology landscape. And I think there's a piece of this which is being sure that you can get that oversight and that control, because you're never it's very difficult to transform completely very quickly. And so being able to hook all of this together in a way that you are not losing the advantages that you have in some of the legacy systems, losing the access to data in some of the legacy systems becomes really important in terms of driving the kind of change that Ian's talking about. So there are real challenges in this, and it's work in progress, I think, in the industry to get to that next iteration where things hook together easily and things work together easily across the whole stack, I think.
Thanks, Vicky. That's been some really good insight. So, Ian, I believe you've been working in collaboration with Vicky on a white paper. Could you talk to me a little bit about that now?
Yeah. So, within Prolifics, we have written a white paper on our experiences, our thoughts, and what we believe that the trends are going forward with APIs in financial services, and it brings together a lot of our learnings over the past few years, and where we think, with Vicky's contributions, where we think the benefits that we can bring to our customers sit, and how our customers can have a review and take advantage of what is out there from a technology point of view with the API connected landscape.
And how do people access the white paper? How can they get hold of it?
So it will be on our website.
What are some of the tangible benefits of this API-led landscape you've been talking about?
So what we saw was the open banking, the PSD2 drivers were the start point of a lot of serious consideration on how the finance industry should adopt an API-led approach for their whole deliverables, not just the open banking side of things. And what the big realization is how the splitting of the monolith that I mentioned can enable the access of data. And data as a commodity, there's been lots written about it, that it is a really powerful asset that all companies have, that everyone knows their customers, but they don't realise how much they know their customers and how powerful the data is that they know. And being able to access it from the lots of different systems within a financial organisation and bring it up to a person that is working on the phone, talking to someone who wants to change their bank account or wants to open a new bank account or new offerings, and being able to tailor that based on the data that you already know. APIs can open all of that up because you're enabling the access of that data in a more simplistic form by having prescribed access points rather than having to create a point-to-point every time you want a new product, new deliverable, new service. It's consume an existing API that's there, that's open within your company, to then have a new sales element for a new loan, a new type of bank account that is there, ready, waiting, with a small amount of development rather than a huge amount of cost, development, planning, project, and everything that goes with that in the non-API world as we were.
Mm-hmm. And Vicky, I'd just like to bring you back into the discussion as well. So, I mean, I guess again, is your view the same as Ian's in terms of how this API-led world, will eventually help to transform the financial industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's massive, and we've talked for a long time about being data driven and this desire to be data driven and this desire to serve clients from a position of understanding the client and understanding them from a kind of 360-degree perspective, and therefore bringing the client the right thing at the right time in the right way. And so you can only do that if you have that access to data in the right way. And in the right way, I mean, that one, that you can access it at all. And that's kind of fundamental. And this is, what APIs really do for us is open up that big box of stuff. But also the right way means controlled and secure and protected so that it's safe. And I think this is, cracking that nut, the possibilities are endless. And we already see that. I mean, the big drivers of innovation in the last few years have been cracking open that data and being able to do more with it and being able to come up with new ideas and new ways of thinking and new ways of doing. And that is not going to slow down at all. And once we add AI and machine learning on top of that, it just gets bigger and faster and more exciting. And I think the key will be getting that grounding and getting your own approach and your own policies set up so that you're doing it in a way that's safe and controlled. And that's exactly what PSD2 is trying to do. It's exactly what all the thinking around open banking is trying to do. So cracking that all open is really what's going to drive a lot of the innovation coming, and it's going to drive the changes in business models. And certainly, that's one of the big things on the minds of the industry right now is how do we get to those new business models? How do we drive ourselves into the future? And this is going to be fundamental in that whole story.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Vicky. So Ian, everybody's got mobile phones now. They've got access to their banks, their banking data. What are some of the challenges that are now being presented to banks by having to operate in this digital world?
Yes, everyone is predominantly using mobile banking rather than going into their branches. We see branches closing and adopting the digitalisation offerings that the banks are giving. And the rate of change within the apps is huge, and a banking app is having to keep up with non-banking apps. The look and feel of how your app looks like on your phone is judged not only by your competitor financial institutions, it's by other good apps out there. So customers might have come off their Netflix app or their eBay, Instagram, and want to do some banking. And if they see a clunky, old, difficult to use app on their phone, that then puts them off, and they might look around. So the ability for banks to change their top layer customer offerings within their mobile banking apps or their online banking, and not have to do all the work within the lower layers of the environment to get at transaction data or customer data or see your account balances. That's key, and that hooks into how and what we're seeing from an API point of view, in the experience layer, and the rate of change in the experience APIs can be huge. Whereas you don't have to do the work in the process layer and the system layer, which might only change 2-3 times a year. Whereas you can have a new version of your app, not too often, otherwise that's going to be detrimental to your customers. But to bring in new enhancements quickly and fast, you're only looking at that top layer.
So Vicky, we've been talking today about the challenges that the banking and finance sector are facing at the moment. So where does IBM see the future in terms of obviously technology, but also the importance of the ecosystem and what other technology partners can bring?
Yeah, and it's a bright future, I think, is the first thing to say. And back to Ian's point about being able to divorce the front end from the back end and have that high rate of change on the front end and that controlled rate of change on the back end, that's going to be a really important part in driving these future models, and that will come down to these hybrid technology landscapes and how we hook those together in ways that are effective. And one of the big themes coming through in the industry is really the idea of platform, and how you build platforms which deliver services or capabilities, and those fundamentally are driven by ecosystem. So the whole ethos behind the kind of platform bank, platform technology thinking is to be able to say, we are going to hook together a big ecosystem. We are going to bring that advantage that we get from pulling, the industry and technology and fintechs and innovators and building those into capabilities that customers and we really want to see. And I think that acceleration is just going to continue. And then I think more and more we're going to see, future technologies. We talk about AI and machine learning as if they're embedded, but there's still a huge amount that will be done and can be done with that. And these very clean modular back-end architectures with these APIs which are switchable and interchangeable, and where you can get that fast iteration on the front end, is going to be a huge part of that. And I think underpinning all of that, the fundamental is going to have to be around security and data protection and assurance and trust and trustworthiness. And there the ecosystem has a huge part to play as well, because I think one of the things that will evolve is the idea of shared responsibility in these landscapes, and how do we operate and how do we manage as an ecosystem in a highly regulated industry to produce those, those positive effects and make sure that we minimize the negatives. I think it's as simple as that, really. But I do believe the sky's the limit, and we see that come through with some of the amazing things that our clients and our fintechs are doing around, voice activated banking. Some of those things that are coming through are just amazing technologies. So more and more of increasing innovation and increasing capability to the end user, I think, is going to be the future, in fact.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Vicky. So Ian, how do people get in touch? Because we've talked about a lot today, and I'm sure it's going to pique a lot of people's interest.
Well, hopefully, yeah. So we'll put the details on the screen. come and visit us on the website. We have free assessments, discovery workshops, things like that, where we can discuss and engage and see how we can help new customers out.
Perfect. Thanks again. Cheers.